has the power to change someone's life. It changed my life. So because of it, I wasn't just happy with creating art. I wanted to live with it. I didn't think I was a collector. I wanted to live with it, whether it was a piece of pottery, a piece of glass, another person's sculpture or drawing. And I traded at first because no one had any money. We were all starving. And I was on scholarship, as you know, in school. And I think one of the greatest things was when my teachers wanted to trade with me. So I knew that meant there was something better than an A or an A+. Living with the art on the level that I do, it's not just fine art. It's ethnographic material, it's decorative arts. Its range, its breadth is so deep that I'm never without inspiration. I'm never without awe. I love looking at other people's art that really moves me. Because of where I was educated in Massachusetts, I could go to the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston frequently, and I did. And the thing that really fascinated me is from gallery to gallery, you had different civilizations in different countries. And yet there was a common kind of thread, and it was something that was the presence of God. And I was very turned on by that. That no matter where it was in the world, the people wanted to touch God. And the way they did it was through art. So who doesn't want to collect art? I could never stop either creating or collecting. And that's sometimes a problem. But that's the Gemini in me. Even though I didn't have two nickels to rub together, somehow I knew I was going to end up with a museum quality collection in my life. And then I was going to be generous and donate. Hundreds of pieces I've already donated to museums and to universities. Because you never really own art. I'm the custodian, so I have to conserve it, I have to frame it properly, I have to exhibit it, I have to store it properly, humidification, all that. And it has a life of its own. So it's all going to be back into the real world again, before I die. And most of it will go to public institutions, colleges and museums. As far as sculpture goes, for me, Brancusi was clearly the greatest sculptor of the last century. Just way beyond what anyone had ever done. And I'm very inspired by his work. Now, conversely, I'm very inspired by Henry Moore's work. Quite different, and for different reasons. But that's the way it should be. And I also think that Julio Gonzalez, he was the man that taught Picasso how to weld. I think he's a really great draftsman and a superb sculptor. The first contemporary paintings I really responded to were the abstract expressionists, and then my own contemporaries like Gregory Amanoff. And through Gregory, I met Brian Rutenberg. I think he's an absolutely incredible and superb painter, and I love him as a man. Ethnographic material I've been very, very interested in for some time. It was, Braque, Picasso, Matisse collected African work. They collected and was inspired and created cubism because of it. So it's because of the ethnographic material we have modern art as we now know today. Who doesn't want to live with it? It just makes perfect sense for what I'm doing. So I have shields and sculptures and utilitarian objects, lots of wares to serve water and food, and they're in my kitchen. They're 100 years old or 50 years old, but they work perfectly in the contemporary environment. When I started doing monumental sculpture in 1971, I was very interested in geometric minimalist work, as well as it being monumental in scale. And then at a certain point in my life, I was profoundly affected by the environment, by the fragility of a sand dune, by the eagles, by the whales. And as I educated myself about those things that were inspiring me, my work became organic. And then I did a whole series of endangered species. And that led me to figurative abstraction, And then after that, I started to get very involved in jazz, which was purely accidental. I was drawing, and I was listening to Sarah Vaughan, one of the great pieces, and I started to cry, and the drip fell on the paper, and I thought, wow, if her music is so profound that it affects me like that, I have to start reading about her and listening to the artists of her generation. And that's when I realized jazz was the only art form that Americans really produced. And it came out of chain gang, it came out of slavery. Bessie Smith started with the blues. Billie Holiday took the blues, added romance to it, more so loss of romance, and then it was jazz, improvisational. Truly a profound American art form. The plight of the Native American really struck me quite hard. So I read a lot about the great chiefs, and they were really high people, very, very special. They understood you don't own a tree, you don't own a canyon or a cloud. We're all here to take care of those things. So with that kind of profundity, I was ready to jump into this series and to do the last 10 years of my work have been based on the Native American sculptures.